Life View. My name is Chris. I'm coming from Austin, and I might be a new face for some of you, but just know that myself, as well as many others, continue to pray for you. We're praying that God's doing great things in your life, as well as praying for your safety as you continue to go back to school and just live life through this crazy pandemic. So let me just jump into what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about change. And as you would think, this is very fitting in today's environment. I'm sure your life has changed quite a bit when you think about virtual schooling. You might think about even sports, how that's changed. I'm a big fan of the NBA and also a big fan of NFL. And to be able to not see real fans out in the stands, it's different, right? So we're all adjusting to what today's normal might be. But the change I'm talking about are those things that sometimes are unexpected. One thing that we do know that is always a constant, though, is God. And you know, His presence, we look to Him to really comfort us during those uncertain times. And again, I think today is one of those. And so, you know, as I was thinking about this lesson, I thought about times when I've gone on road trips with my family. And, you know, when you think about a road trip you might have been on, you know, usually things start out pretty smooth, right? Everybody's super excited, you jump in the car, and then you head to your destination. And sometimes it gets real comfortable. You might hit that cruise control button, whether it's you driving or your parents driving. And if you think about life, sometimes it's that way. Things are going really good in life. Not a whole lot to complain about, and you're just cruising through life, right? And every so often, you might sway a little bit to that center line, and you hear some of that rumbling noise, and that's a reminder. And, you know, for us, that might be the Holy Spirit nudging us a little bit if we're, you know, coming off track, right? Doing something that might not be necessarily pleasing to God. So, nice reminder for us. But then sometimes you have the storm that comes. You see the storm coming from a distance, and then you brace yourself, right? So you're going to pull that off of cruise control, and you might grip onto that steering wheel, and you might take full control of the situation and want to handle things on your own. Well, I don't know about you, but for me, many times when I take full control of a situation, I fail. And I think that comes down to me realizing that I'm not putting full trust and faith in God, that He's got my back. Sometimes God just wants to remind us that, you know, pull over and just jump in that passenger seat and, you know, put that trust in Him that He's going to drive. He's going to lead us through tough times. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, change. Change comes in many, many forms. We know for the most part, change is expected. We don't all expect for things to remain the same in our life. It's something that we know will happen in many different times in our life. But the ones that always throw us off are those ones that are unexpected, right? They're the ones that just really disrupt things. They show up out of nowhere. And, you know, those are the type of changes that can make it difficult for us to navigate. And, you know, some of those changes might be a change in a friendship, right? It could be a change in scenery. It could be location, where you're living, what you're doing. Again, change happens all around us. And again, those unexpected ones just have a way of disrupting everything, throwing off kind of the routine that we're used to. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how that creates a little bit of tension in our life. So I've already talked about several unexpected changes that might occur. I just want you to reflect on some things that are real to you. I know you're all experiencing many different things. And so I just want you to keep that thing in mind as we talk through today's lesson. And, you know, for many of us, we've always considered family, you know, something to be that constant thing that's secure. Now, I do empathize and do understand that for some, family may have never been a safe place for some of you. It may have never been a secured place. But when you think of the concept of family in general, we all do think that family is just one of those that should be a constant. Even if it's not, we do expect for it to be. So when change does happen to our family, that's where it could be really challenging for us to work through. You might have experienced this, many times yourself. Some examples I'd share are, maybe your parents went through a divorce. Maybe you had a parent pass away. I'll just share my personal story that a couple years back, my father had passed away, and it rocked my world. It rocked my entire family's world. Very challenging for us to work through a tough loss like that. So that's, again, some of the examples we'll talk through today. So no matter what your experience is with change, something about it happening to our families just makes it that much more difficult. So the question is, it's not avoiding that change is going to happen, because we all know change is very possible, but how do we get better at handling that? So what we're going to do today is we're going to explore some of that. And I'm going to walk through some verses here and some stories through the book of Ecclesiastes. And this is chapter 3. And as you make your way there yourself, let me just provide some context for you, set the stage, right? So this book is in the Old Testament, and it's written by King Solomon. King Solomon was known as one of the wisest out there. Now, God did bless Solomon with wisdom, and he did experience life, in many different ways. And he wrote several things down as he wanted to pass those learnings down to others. So, and that includes our topic today of change. So let me read a few passages from chapter 3. I'm going to go from chapter 1 to chapter 8. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Now, that's very poetic. And as I'm thinking about how to simplify this, right, for us to all understand, I think it essentially is telling us that, you know what, everyone, just get ready. Change is coming. It's changing in many different ways. Change is going to happen. Nothing stays constant. And again, I know you understand that. The things that you're experiencing today will look different tomorrow. This is the world that we all live in. So for us, I think it's something that we're all just getting used to and all have become numb to in many ways, that change is going to happen. So in some ways, it might seem a little depressing, right? I just love to hear that there's a way that I could just make change less painful, because it does become challenging. It does become difficult. Or even better in many cases, if there's a way that I could just keep change from happening at all. Many times in our lives, again, when that does happen to us, it just, it hurts many times, right? It's not easy. And we do look to others to help us feel better, or help explain, or just, help comfort us during those tough times. But, that's not what Solomon's saying in this. I know that's what comes to mind, but he's saying the exact opposite in this. He's letting us know that everything will change at some point or another. It's inevitable, but do know that God has our back. And so that's where I want this truth to come out, is that we know things will change both in our families and the world around us, and we can be prepared to deal with it. Be prepared to deal with it that much better. And so instead of fighting the change and pretending that things will always stay the same, how do we open up our hands and just give control? And I'll ask all of you that, have you given control in some cases? And what's that been like? Has things gotten better? Has things gotten worse? I'll share that in those times when I do give control, I have a sense of peace, not only in my heart, but in my mind, that, again, no matter how difficult things are, I can't control that. I can't control the outcome. Sometimes I can't control how to even change when change occurs, right? But what is constant is that I do know that God's got my back, and I can put full faith in him, release all the stress and worries that are on my mind, lift those up from my shoulders, and give that all to him, because he can carry it. Many times I don't feel like I have the strength to be able to carry that. God's fully aware of everything that changes in our life. He knows that, good things will happen. He knows bad things will also show up in our lives, and neither will last forever. Good things come and go, and bad things come and go. But, in this life, the constant change, God also makes a promise to us. And the promise, again, obviously, isn't that he's going to make difficulty go away by any means. It's that he's there, and we can always lean on him. When we look at the book of Isaiah, we learn about a message that God has for his people. Those were forced to leave their homes and live in a land where people spoke a different language. That can be very, very challenging. For my parents, that was a reality for them many, many years ago, where they came to the U.S., and that was a challenge. So I can definitely empathize with that. Many worship different gods. It was just their hostile way of life. And everything felt safe and secure and stable for many of them. And then suddenly it wasn't. In the midst of all of that, God said to his people, and let me read this in Isaiah, "When you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you." Now, again, just imagine the comfort that, many of them felt when they heard that, right? When everything around them was changing, God wasn't. The same for us is obviously very true in every single moment, every single season of change, including family change that we might go through. God will always be with us. He's walking through all that difficulty alongside us. We're never alone, definitely in that. God's never caught off guard by changes in our lives. He's always very well prepared. I think what he's looking for is, how are we going to respond? Are we going to cruise through change? Are we going to grab it by the steering wheel and take full control? Or are we going to let him in the driver's seat and take the lead? One thing that he's promised is he's always going to be with us. And that's exactly what we need during those tough times, is for him to be with us. As I think about how we apply this in our lives, again, we can't control the people in our families. We can't control the situations that occur in our families, the change that happens in our families. It's always a constant. So instead of, again, trying to stop that change or trying to control people, what can we do? Well, we can definitely start by focusing on our mindset, because our mindset matters. The way that we think, our attitude, our perspective on things matters a lot. We can change the way that we look at change, right? If you're following that, let me repeat that again. We can change the way that we look at change. So think of it this way. When your family changes, your mindset matters. I want that to sit a little bit for you, but when someone in your family, say they move out, your mindset matters. When someone moves in, your mindset matters. You can't control those external circumstances, those situations, but you can work on your attitude. I can control that. I can control what I decide to do, not always what I decide to think. Those are the things that kind of run wild sometimes in your head, but I can change my outlook, my perspective on things. Just remember, God is with you, even though others might not be with you in your family as change occurs. So let me walk through a few steps here that might help you through some of this. The first thing is understand, again, change will happen. We've talked about this quite a bit here. That's why in the passage of Ecclesiastes, we talked about how powerful this is. There's a time for everything. Change is bound to happen to all of us. Understanding that doesn't make change easy for us to handle, but at least we know that it's a reality in our life. Everyone deals with it. So first, understand change will happen. Second, know that God is with you, right? Like Isaiah said, whether you pass through the waters or you walk through the fire, God will not leave you alone. And whatever change you face in your family, He'll be right there with you, helping you and just helping to just comfort you through all of that. And then last, third piece is trust that God can use the change to change you. Trust that God can use the change to change you. So God can use our time of transition and just the adjustment that we're going to help us grow in many different ways, things that we've never expected. God can do something in and through our time of change. So when you think about that, sometimes we don't see that. All we see in front of us are the challenges that we're faced with, and we don't see the final outcome. We don't see the plan that God is laying in front of us or the experience He wants us to go through so that we can grow from that. But just trust God has that plan. And if we have that long-term view, we'll know that there's something after all that change that takes place. We might not see it yet, but God isn't done yet either. So, and if we can begin to see some of the change this way, we can embrace it as, just something for us to take on, grow from, and move forward even that much stronger. So change has that potential to be something that causes us to grow, to become more mature, to become more of who God designed us to be. So let me wrap this up with a nice bow. I mentioned that when your family changes, your mindset matters. What I'd ask of everyone is to, again, just assess your experiences, what you might be going through today, because change is very much in front of us. What are we doing about it today? Are we asking God for strength? Are we asking for His grace to help change our mindset so that we get in that right state of mind, that right place? Or have you just continued to hold on to that steering wheel as long as you can until you have to let go because you don't have enough energy left? I pray that all of you lean into God during difficult times. Again, during those difficult times, it's easy for us, and including myself, to maybe stray a little bit away because we want to take control of the situation and control the outcomes. But only God knows what His plan is for us. Only God knows what it looks like on the other side of these challenges. And so let Him jump in that driver's seat. Let Him take control of your life and put your trust and faith that He's got your back. Thank you all. And until next time, keep praying, keep encouraging one another, and keep sharing that love of God with others. Thanks a lot, guys.